Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real-time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Today's guest is an author, motivated speaker, amputee, U.S. para-athlete, ninja warrior. He's a firefighter in the great state of Texas who had his leg amputated in 2018, returning back to firefighting 10 months and 6 days after his operation. Today, he enjoys every opportunity gets to share his story with others in hope to help them adapt and overcome when things get tough. Please welcome Gary Weiland. Gary, great to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We love talking about endurance and the endurance mindset. So my question for you, Gary, tell me how your endurance mindset has impacted your life unexpectedly.
Well, unexpectedly, I would say that, I've always taught my kids that everything happens for a reason. And when adversity and tragedy struck my life, it allowed me an opportunity to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So enduring to the end is kind of our motto. It's kind of what we do here in the Weiland house.
Fantastic. So can you give us a little bit more examples of how that walk the walk, talk the talk comes up in your life sort of day to day?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything. My kids are all teenagers, except for my oldest. He's 20 now, but we go through the whole gambit of everything with school, with relationships, with sports. So we're constantly, facing adversity. We're always challenged with, we like to preach, be Christ-like and work hard and be good in all things. But then life kind of throws curveballs at us and challenges us and gives us opportunities to walk that walk and not just say who we are and what our character is, but actually live it, every day.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear more about how, as a parent, you instilled that as your children started, when they were growing up. When did you start working with them on their mindset, walking the walk, talking the talk? Give us a little bit of insights on sort of the parenting side of that. Like what age and how'd you get that started?
Yeah. Honestly, when my kids we just started having a family, I was working in retail and I was gone a lot. And so a lot of those morals and values, was really instilled by my wife. During the day, I'd come home and it was playtime. But as they started to get into school and sports and had teams, that allowed me an opportunity to be a father and say, this is how we act. This is how we treat others as they would have them treat us and, showing up, being there. And so it started at a very young age with us. We're a very competitive family, very active family. We camp, we hike, we, play a lot of sports, especially basketball. So that competitive nature kind of kicks in and, winning and losing, you have a lot of opportunity there to teach them about life. And, it came at a pretty young age. And about the time that they hit the teenage years is when my little incident happened. And so that kind of turned the whole family upside down.
So diving into the incident, walk us through that story. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So, in 2011, I decided that I wanted to be a firefighter, which is pretty crazy because I was working retail, making really good money, until my son came to work. My wife brought my kids in to see us and my son looks at me and says, "Yeah, I want to come work with you someday here." And I was just like, oh, I was not excited about that. I felt like I'd been given different gifts and abilities throughout my life, physically and mentally, that maybe I was kind of wasting some of those in that retail environment. And so I kind of had a little, come to Jesus moment, like, okay, what is my purpose on this planet? I've, fathered, 4 kids, but I feel like I need to be a better example to them about what their goals and dreams should be. And so I kind of had to self-reflect and say, what are my goals and dreams, and what can I do with what I've been given? And so I looked in the military, and it wasn't for me. I was 31 at the time, and I just didn't go right. Looked into police academy, wasn't for me. And then I saw a fire truck drive by one day, and I thought, what do these guys really do other than, fight fire, obviously. And so I looked into it, and they do a lot of physical work, car wrecks, house fires, grass fires. And then they also do a lot of EMT stuff, as far as on an ambulance with, people are hurt, sick, dying and stuff. So I thought I can use what I've been given physically and what I've been given mentally to really do some good in this world. And I wanted to serve my community. And so I thought, this is what I'm going to do. And so I decided that, at the ripe old age of 31, that I was going to quit my job as a retail manager and put myself through a fire academy and EMT school and become a firefighter. And so, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, and so we weren't going to have an income. So I needed to find a way to put myself through fire academy and all that. But I really felt like that was what I was supposed to do. This was my calling in life, and I finally found it. And I was going to help people on their worst day and show my kids, be a good example to them. And so that's what I did. It just kind of made it happen. I found a job working overnight as a forklift operator where I could go to the fire academy and EMT school during the day. And, all the stars kind of lined up for me. About 8 months later, I got hired on in Denton, Texas as a firefighter, and which was awesome. That was 2011. And then, play a lot of basketball, like I said, a lot of wear and tear on my legs and knees and stuff. And then in 2016, I had to have a partial knee replacement to repair all the cartilage damage. And, had some complications from that. My knee would swell up and different things. But it finally worked itself out. Back on the job, no big deal. And then 2 years later, 2018, it was actually Thanksgiving morning. We were playing in the Turkey Bowl, which, you combine what you do on Thanksgiving, right? You got football and you got turkey. And so it's a Super Bowl of the day of Thanksgiving. So we call it the Turkey Bowl. And it's out there with friends and family, running down the field, kind of doing my thing. And then all of a sudden my knee swelled up again. And unfortunately, this was the one that, kind of did me in. As far as the swelling, it actually swelled up to about the size of a bowling ball, which was excruciating pain. I had to kind of drag myself off the field, and I couldn't even walk to my truck. So I had to get, my friends to kind of carry me, which you don't want to see your kids, you'd be in front of your kids or let them see you, in that moment. But it was a struggle. It was very painful. I got to the ER and they couldn't find a pulse in my foot. So, they rushed me into the OR, and, it was, a typical surgery on a random shoulder or whatever is, 30 minutes, an hour, long surgery is 2 hours, open heart surgery is 4 hours. My surgery was 13 hours. They were trying to restore that blood flow because they knew me personally. Like, this is the hospital that I bring my patients to. Like, they know my family, they know my lifestyle. So they called in all kinds of doctors to help and try and make it work. And unfortunately, it didn't work. And so the decision was made that, I had to amputate my leg just below my knee. So that was pretty rough. Obviously, 7 years into a firefighting career, something that I felt like this was my calling in life. This is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And now I'm in a situation where I don't know what the future holds.
So were you part of that decision-making process, or was that during the 13 hours of operation when you were under, and they just made that decision? Tell me that part of the story.
Yeah. So, they could not restore the blood flow after 13 hours. And so the next day, they woke me up and said, "Hey, this is the situation, this needs to happen, but we wanted your consent, because it wasn't necessarily life threatening at the moment. So you need to consent to this. And so I was under a lot of pain meds. I don't really remember my thought process during all of that and really even consenting, if you will, because I was under some pretty heavy pain meds. But yeah, I was part of that process. And ultimately, I tried to do all kinds of things. My wife tells me moving my leg and foot with my hands and trying to do whatever I could to get that blood to flow again. But, obviously it wasn't something that I could control. And so, yeah, I had to make that decision, and I didn't really understand. I don't think what that was going to entail, what that was going to encompass, how that was really going to affect my life the way that it obviously did, because of, my head was kind of in a fog during all of that. But, when I woke up after the amputation, it became very real at that moment. And so it was physically painful, mentally painful. It's hard to describe losing a limb. It's very much like losing a family member. Just that grieving process of something that's just gone, forever now, that I won't ever get back. And it's kind of hard to explain that to people. But it's very, very real. Went through, about just depression, if you will, as far as like, this is, I'm a firefighter. How can I be a firefighter on one leg, and how do I support my family? And they like to eat and live under a roof, and how do I play basketball? And all these different things started going through my mind about how my life was going to be so different, and then it kind of hit me like, how do I even walk? Basic function. And so, it took a long time for me to wrap my head around it. This is something that absolutely flipped my life upside down and my family's life upside down, and what we're going to do at this point,
So walk us through your mindset shift. Over those 10 months, right? You come home from your operation, and 10 months later, you're back firefighting, which is incredible story, incredible recovery. That had to have been driven by a mindset that you had either developed during those 10 months or you had prior. Walk us through your mindset.
Right. So this is where, that endurance mindset kind of kicked in. It didn't kick in right away, because your brain just wants to go to this dark place when adversity strikes. And so I went to that dark place and went down those dark roads a number of times. And, it wasn't until my kids actually kind of challenged me, and once you're in that mood, right, where it's just, you're grumpy and angry at the world and God and everyone, there comes a breaking point where someone just has to like snap you out of it. And, and it was actually my kids that came to me and they said, why did this happen? And I thought, I don't know, and they said, everything happens for a reason. So what's the reason behind this? And it really struck me, and I was like, you're right. Everything happens for a reason. And I've been preaching this to you for years. And now who am I to go against what I've been telling you, what I've been teaching you? And so, my negative attitude all of a sudden started to turn positive, and my thinking, instead of being negative, started being positive thinking. And once that started happening, once I started to kind of embrace this, accepting the fact that it's not coming back and I just need to move forward, everything started to change. My mindset started to change. And I remember distinctly one morning waking up, and I was having a little bit of a moment, and I was thinking, dang, why did this happen, to me? And in that same moment, I had some inspiration there, and I thought, this didn't happen to me. This happened for me. And I don't really know where that came from, but once that hit, it just kind of snowballed from there. And I thought, yeah, this is for me. something good is going to come of this. And, maybe I'll help other people get through some adversity in their lives. And so once you just start snowballing and good things start happening. And once you have that mind shift of like, you know what? Yes, life is hard, but if you just keep moving forward, you can get through anything. And so, a couple months goes by, a couple months goes by, I start walking, I start running, I started training, and 10 months and 6 days after my amputation, I'm very blessed to say I'm back on the fire truck, full duty, no restrictions. It was pretty unbelievable. But what I learned is that, you can literally do anything you put your mind to, as long as you don't give up, as long as you don't quit on yourself. Every day. And, people talk about it's impossible to do this or that. Well, I'm telling you, like, I am living proof that you can make the impossible possible as long as you don't give up. So that's kind of, I guess, where this whole mindset came in, and it's done me well before and during and after. So things are going well.
It's amazing how your children become that mirror, and it's like, wait a second, I've been telling you to do this and I'm not living up to what I'm telling you.
Right.
It's a harsh mirror to look at. Gary, how has that mindset come up in other parts of your life?
I guess it kind of comes down to these like defining moments in your life, right? Good or bad. You have these moments where you can make these decisions, and to give up and quit, because that's the easy thing to do, right? You can, if you do the easy things in life, life will be hard. But if you do the hard things in life, life will be easy, right? And so, since this has happened, I got back on the job as a firefighter. I thought, what else can I do? How else can I challenge myself and really push my body to the limits? Because what I found is that, we have this power inside of us. All of us have it, and we just have to tap into it. We put our passion with like our purpose in life, and that is very powerful. And there's literally nothing you can't achieve. So I thought, okay, what else can I do with this thing? And so I started putting myself out there, trying to compete in different sporting events with other people. And I found I did some volleyball, some sitting volleyball, which is really hard on the body because you're literally sitting on the floor. That led into standing beach volleyball, which is a lot of fun. A little bit with the U.S. para team and things. Found my way down to that team, and then I found my way onto the U.S. para bobsled team, and so that's been a lot of fun. I've been to Norway a couple of times. Currently the U.S. national champion, which is insane to even think about. But all of this takes work, it takes commitment, it takes dedication. Discipline, things that you hear about, in different YouTube videos and things. But if you actually believe it, right, and you tap into that power that is inside of you, I am living proof that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I'm just kind of going to keep going. I did Ninja Warrior. That was a lot of fun. I submitted a video for that, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But it's been absolutely amazing. The ninja community is awesome. They support each other and cheer for each other, even though they're competing against each other. So you're not going to find a better community than the ninja world. But I found myself, if you've seen my episodes 2 years ago, I got stuck on the log runner and fought for a while on there, and I got my legs back, and I thought I was going to get through it, and ended up falling. And then this last season, I did the same thing. I fell on that log runner again, but something kicked in and thought, this is not going to beat me. This is not beating me this time. And miraculously, I just kind of did a flying burpee, if you will, and got through it. And it's pretty wild being the only amputee to ever make it to the semifinals because of that. And and different things has happened. Some cool opportunities have come up because I didn't quit when life got hard. Even the little things like being on Ninja Warrior and this little obstacle in my life, the log runner, I could have very easily quit. And a lot of people fall on that obstacle. And fortunately I didn't give up. I didn't quit. I thought I can get through this. I can fight. And that's the same thing through life. It doesn't matter what kind of obstacle comes up. You just can't quit. We can get through anything as long as we keep moving forward, taking one step at a time, and for me, whatever that step looks like, even on a prosthetic leg, right?
What I love about those videos, Gary, is the passion and intensity of your family as you're like they are on that log with you, as is most of America with watching you like hanging upside down with one leg here and your arm. And it's just like, come on, man. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's making my skin tingle now. And it's also amazing that a Texan can find a bobsledding team. So congrats on that
Right.
as well.
Right.
Let's rewind the clock a little bit, Gary. Let's talk about you and your childhood and how you grew up and how you mentioned how you got interested in firefighting, but how did you get into the retail space? Give us a little bit more history of who you are.
Yeah. So, I grew up very poor, honestly. I grew up in a mobile home. My dad worked for the city as a garbage man. He was literally on the back of a garbage truck. Uh, I have an older brother who's 5 years older than me. And my mom, she was a part-time crossing guard. So, very, small means, growing up. And, my parents bought a house. And when I got into school, and it cost $16,000. It was one bedroom, with a basement that had a dirt floor. And whenever it rained, it flooded, but that's where the shower was, so we had to go down there. We had cinder blocks with 2x4s, from the stairs to the shower, and that's the way I grew up. That's the way it was. I didn't know any different. I always had food, on the table, when I got home from school, and I had a roof over my head. Uh, it had an unfinished attic. And so that's kind of where me and my brother slept. We had beds up there, and, uh, it was hot in summer, cold in the winter because we didn't have air conditioning or heat up there. And so, we found ourselves sleeping, on the couch in the living room for most of my childhood. I mean, it's pretty wild kind of looking back, but I didn't know any different. I was a kid, and I never felt like I was poor or I went without. My parents loved me to death. They were my biggest cheerleaders. I played sports growing up, the little league. Once I got into sports with school, junior high and high school, didn't really work out for me. Unfortunately, I was kind of a late bloomer. So I graduated high school. I was 5'5", 110 pounds. So yeah, I was basically like a sixth grader when I graduated high school. So sports wasn't in the stars for me in school. But after high school, I grew, and I'm about 5'10", 170 now. And so, that didn't stop me from trying to compete though, especially against my brother. He was 5 years older than me. He had all the size. He was 6'2", 220. And I was 5'5", 110, but I, had this competitive attitude, this competitive spirit about myself. So I always wanted to beat him at everything. And, especially basketball. That was my one love. And, I kind of, we play in the backyard. Our hoop was literally a pole in our dirt backyard with a wooden backboard. Like I can't even explain to you how it was, but I was happy. Like I said, I didn't know any different, but I just played against him and competed against him. And so I developed kind of this jumping ability. It was about 45-inch vertical, which was pretty wild. And then when I grew after high school, I maintained that. So I actually could hit my head on the rear. Like I got to be pretty good back then. And that's kind of helped me throughout my adult life, being very competitive with other sports and activities and things. And then able to teach my kids all about adversity and being the underdog and all that kind of stuff growing up, because been there, done that, and didn't let it stop me. Um, but my parents, they instilled, m- morals and values and my character, in me. And so, no matter what, I was always treating others as I would have them treat, me. And, um, very happy. Growing up, I had a ton of cousins. My mom and dad both had multiple brothers and sisters. So I think I had about 30 cousins growing up. So childhood was, absolutely great. I have zero complaints about it. So we were always together at birthdays. It seemed like every week we were at another cousin's house celebrating a birthday. All the holidays, we were all together, one big family. It was awesome. I couldn't ask for a better childhood.
Family really comes out in the way that you talk and the stories, and it really rewinds back to one of our first stories around your turkey bowl and how that led into, your amputation and the rest of that. But family, super important, as it is to me, which is why I'm picking up on it. Gary, talk to us about what are you doing now. On your website, you're a motivational speaker. Talk to us some about what you do outside of firefighting.
Yeah, I stay very busy outside of firefighting. I speak. I do a lot of schools. Uh, I do business conferences. I've developed a little bit of an alter ego, if you will. So during the ninja and stuff, you have to kind of find ways of standing out, if you will. And so a lot of different people wear different suits and things. And so I thought, man, what can I do to kind of really stand out? I had the prosthetic leg, and so I stand out with that. But I don't know. I have this message for the world, and especially for kids, about this adapt and overcome. You can face adversity, you can do anything. And so I thought, how can I really spread this message of hope to them? And so I come up with an acronym. All right. I am the fearless fan man. And FAN is an acronym that stands for firefighter, amputee, ninja. And so I go to schools, I dress up, and as the fan man, and we have a lot of fun. And I talk about my experience and the good, the bad, the ugly, and I really, motivate these kids to push through the hard times. And then this message of hope, and faith. I really want to drive home with them, because kids go through a lot, and I just want them to know they're not alone, and that they can get through it, as long as they don't quit. Talk about character, talk about, how we all face adversity, but how you respond to that adversity determines your character, and who do you want to be, when things are good. Yeah, it's great. And, but really your character comes out when things are not so great, when things, you face some adversity. So, I like to talk a lot about purpose, and magnifying your calling in life. And again, that power that we have inside of us, and that passion to really accomplish, our purpose on this planet. So it's a lot of fun with the kids, with adults, of course. Business conferences and things. I talk more about kind of what I went through, and how it can help them personally. I kind of have my own adapt and overcome manifesto, if you will. I talk about, really acknowledging your emotions when things come up, and defining like who you are, and tapping into your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you passionate about it? Are you just trying to make money? Is this something personal? Is it family? And then finding that tribe, to really support you, the people around you. You always want to be amongst people that are smarter than you, and that you can learn from and grow from. It's the same as when you have kids, and you want them to be the best at a sport. So what do? You put them in the grade above, right? You want them to be around people that are better than them, so that they will get better, so that they will grow. And same thing with business, same thing with life. I talk about, setting goals and always moving that goalpost. And once you get there, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? So that you're always thirsty. You're always hungry. You want that next goal, and just making a plan. I think that's where a lot of businesses kind of fall short, is that we have these goals, but like we need to make a plan. How do we get these goals? How do we reach these goals? And so, and then of course, the last thing is just the easiest part, is executing, right? But, I enjoy speaking. I enjoy sharing my story. And then athletic wise, I love Ninja Warrior. It's opened up a lot of doors for me. Bobsledding is a lot of fun. Writing children's books has been great. So we'll see what the future holds. Currently, my next challenge, I'm running the Boston Marathon in April, which is super exciting. There's a charity called 50 Legs, and 5 years ago when I lost my leg, they stepped up and gave me my fire leg. So I needed a second leg for my fire boot, and they stepped up and gave it to me free of charge so that I could get back on the job. So they really did help me support my family, get back to work. They also helped the Boston Marathon bombings victims. They gave them legs, and because of that, the Boston Marathon has given them 8 bibs to wear in the Boston Marathon every year, and they've asked me to represent them this year in the Boston Marathon. So I've never run a marathon. I've always been a sprinter. I've always gotten my miles on the basketball court, but I am super excited to do this for them. I am raising $12,000, which is a lot, but that money will help 2 kids get prosthetic legs. So it's a good cause. It's kind of a full circle thing for me. I can give back to them. I can help a couple kids get some prosthetic legs so that they can be active and feel normal in life. And at the same time, a once in a lifetime opportunity to run the Boston Marathon. So the money goes directly to 50 Legs. I don't get a dime of it. It's all charity. It's a 501c. So definitely a tax break on there too.
And what's the website for us to connect with them?
Yeah, it's just 50legs.org.
Excellent. Yep. And we'll include that in the show notes for sure. And sorry, Gary, I cut you off. You're about to say something else about your next adventure.
Well, I'm 44 years old, and I just feel like I want to just push this body to see what it can do. And so I've got triathlons in the future. I want to do Ironman. And I have a huge goal is to run 100 miles in 24 hours. I don't know any other amputees that have done it. And so there's probably a reason why they haven't done it. But that's a big goal of mine. And when I set goals, I do everything I can to achieve them.
Yeah. One of my first triathlons was the Escape from Alcatraz out in San Francisco. And I raised money for the Challenge Athletes Foundation while doing my training. And I remember going to a happy hour before the race, and there was a couple Challenge athletes there. And one of them, this guy, One Arm Willie, who absolutely destroyed me in the swim. And I'm like, how could this be possible? It is incredible to watch these athletes with amputations and other challenges really accomplish what they get to accomplish. And so please let me know which Ironman you sign up for. I might sign up for the same one just so I can be toe to toe with you at the start line. I suspect you'll finish hours and hours in front of me.
Well,
Gary, how can the audience member get in touch with you?
Yeah, for me, just go to my personal website, GaryWeiland.com. And then if you're wanting to get it into business a little bit, I do merchandise. So I have some companies that put the AO logo on their shirts instead of some other brands, and which is a lot of fun. And, because it has a meaning behind it, has purpose behind it. And you can find that at adaptandovercomeapparel.com. And of course, social media, Facebook, Instagram, just Gary Weiland. Reach out anytime. Happy to help, answer questions, come speak, whatever I can do to help you guys out.
Fantastic. Any parting words you want to give our audience before we stop the recording?
Again, I would just say that you can make the impossible possible.
I couldn't say it any better. Gary, thank you for being on the show. It's awesome to connecting with you. I look forward to sending out our message. Audience members, if you got some value out of today's episode, please like the episode. Please subscribe to this podcast. Share this with your friends and family. Let's spread Gary's message, tell his story, really push out some more hope into the universe because we need it.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, Be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefelduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits.